Hello everyone, I'm Rishi Persad and welcome back to another episode of Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Steve Ryder in his usual position, but this week we welcome Dave Ord to the studio. Dave, it's a pleasure to have you on board. I've done a few things with you in the past, always entertaining, so I'm looking forward to what you've got to tell us about what you've made of the season so far in National Hunt Racing.
I try to be upbeat, Rishi, I really do, because you've got to be in life, but it's struggled with this jump season, haven't you? It just seems to have been a relentless march of small fields, rain, heavy ground, uncompetitive racing, but there's a beacon of light I can see over the hill. I mean, people complain about the build.
It's not the flat season.
It's not the flat season. Well, it is, but no, it's not the flat season. People complain about the shadow that Cheltenham cast, but my goodness, more than ever this year, we need it, because it's becoming the only place where the stars collide, isn't it? We don't see it at any other time of the year. There's so much shadow boxing, they're able to duck and dive, dodge each other. You can't at Cheltenham. You want to be one of the big grade ones at Cheltenham, you need to roll into town, and we're 2 weeks and counting from that.
Well, it's interesting he says that, because normally people are going, what are you doing on this podcast? You're starting off on a negative note. But actually, when we look back at some of the reaction to the chat that we had last week on social media and on YouTube, Steve, you'd have seen it yourself. There's lots of negative about the season. It's a summary from Dave about what a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah, and a lot of the points that we touched on last week around ticket prices and everything, the comments around that are kind of spot on, and something needs to be done around it. And yeah, looking forward to Cheltenham, but there are also changes that could be made to it.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about something perhaps a bit more positive. We always get our guests to signal to us a horse, not running this week or imminently, but one that has impressed you and that you're excited about seeing in the future, maybe at the festival and further down the line. It
is at the festival. I'm going to award for the most obvious one in this genre so far in this series, but it's Factor File. What excites me about him most is he's just been a natural over fence. I know it was a non-event last time with Gaelic Warrior blowing out beforehand and during the race, but the way he kept his concentration, he was deadly down the back straight as well when he went up the inside and put the pressure on. And it's the fact that if he ran in the Arkle, it'd be a single figure price. I'd argue he'd be second favourite. It'd be favourite for returners, favourite for the Brown Advisory he's running. He'd be favourite for the National Hunt Chase. He's one of those staying chasers with class. And you don't
second favourite for the Gold Cup?
He'd be second or third, he would, wouldn't he? Because he's got that, and it's that element that Galopin Des Champs had, that Corto Star definitely had, and he's not Corto Star. I'm not saying that, but he's got speed, he's got class, and Willie Mullins himself says he's push button this horse. He ticks away, jumps like a dream, then you pull him out and he goes. It's when you want to go, he'll go and he'll answer the questions you ask. And he's already, I think, 159 plus time form. That's sort of £11 below the likes of Lon Presse. He's going to get there by the end of this season and hopefully breathe new life in that staying chase division next season. Yeah,
he's not the first person, is he?
No.
I mean, there have been a few people to have mentioned Factor File. It's clearly a horse that's only going to get hyped. I'll be surprised if he goes off odds against, judging by all the hype about him.
Yeah, there are other contenders in that Brown Advisory. I'm a big fan of Monty Star, and then we'll obviously then go from there. So I do think that's going to be one of the best races at the festival, the Brown Advisory.
Yeah, Paul Nicholls sounding positive about Stay Away Faye.
Yeah.
It's good with Paul, isn't it? He's stable. Because he only played 10 or 12. He said you always need a small but select team this year. I'm sure he didn't say that 10, 15 years ago. No. But I love the positive vibes you get about the big guns from Nicholls. He talks the talk and often walks the walk.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because in Racing Recap, one of the first horses we'll be talking about comes from the Paul Nicholls team. And yes, we start Racing Recap with Kempton and what happened in the Adonis. Caliph de Burley made a very good impression in winning again. Wasn't quite as impressive as maybe one or two people would like to have seen, but he was probably up against a good horse in Gimme 5. What did you make of Caliph de Burley's performance, and what do you think about what his future could be?
I was impressed he got the job done, because Gimme 5's quick, and I thought Kempton would suit Gimme 5, and it did, and he was tough as well. I really liked the way the runner-up rallied even when Caliph de Burley was hanging towards him. Look, he did what he had to do. I'm not surprised they ruled Cheltenham out straight after. That was too hard a race, and he wasn't impressive enough to warrant a roll of the dice 2 weeks down the line. I think the interesting thing with him is how long Paul's going to wait to go chasing, because he just keeps saying this is a chaser in the making, he's a Gold Cup horse, it's all about the future. Will he sit on his hands for another season over hurdles, or do you think he'll pull the trigger and go for the big ones next season?
I think he'll be chasing in the autumn, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. Get that allowance earlier on in the season.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be better over intermediate trips as well, isn't he? As soon as he goes up in trip, he's going to be a proper horse. I mean, this was closer than a lot, including myself, thought it would be at the finish, but you could just see the difference in the types of horses. Caliph de Burley, a big strapping chaser for the future, and Gimme 5 coming off the flat, a nice small little one. Obviously, there's a bit of intimidation with Caliph de Burley coming across. Looking forward to the future, he kind of showed a bit of a tendency again to jump left-handed, which I don't think is a negative going forward if you're going to think that he's a future Gold Cup horse. Kempton actually, in hindsight, might not be his track, even though it's 2 from 2 there. And yeah, Paul Nicholls, like Dave said around being bullish comments, his quote of "he's one of the nicest we've had for a long time to go chasing" says it all, really.
I think it's interesting, 2.5 mile as well at Aintree. They're going for the open age novice rather than the juvenile up there, which...
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I was really interested in what you said at the top about Paul Nicholls and the bullishness and the use of language. A lot of people, Paul Nicholls himself has said it. He said, "This is a 3-mile chaser. This is a 3-mile chaser," which I think he would have said to just emphasise how smart the horse is already. So I had a look through his pedigree. There's nothing in this pedigree that says all his family are 2, 2.25, 2.5 milers. Paul Nicholls actually trained Cat Gary, who he's related to on the dam side. And Cat Gary was a 2.25, 2.5 mile horse. So I'm just a bit wary about people going, definitely Gold Cup horse, King George. People were saying this is the King George winner in 2 years' time and all that sort of stuff. Just, he might not be. He was just saying, can we wait? It's a long way from 2 miles to 3 miles. He might be a 2.5 mile horse. It might be his métier, but not. It's just the use of language. And Paul Nicholls is so keen to emphasise when he's got something special. He says things like, this is a 3-mile Gold Cup horse. It's a long way. It's
interesting. I don't know if they're buying a different type or what, but Madgeborough, Willie Mullins, who ran so well. Willie, Apple of Willie's eye, one of the juvenile hurdlers, but he's a chaser. He said he could go chasing now. He's the big brute. He's exactly the same physical specimen as Khalif de Burley, and clearly I'd imagine he'll be going chasing next season as well. So it could be one heck of a novice chase department.
Yeah. Wow. It's exciting when they have to do something different. And Blow Your Wad was very impressive, I thought, in the way he and the runner-up quickened away from the field to win the Pendil. There was a fair amount of positivity about his chances at Kempton on the weekend, Steve?
Yeah, we both selected him at a nice price of 7 to 1 on the show last week. So, yeah, we got the value with that one. I've got the value in a few races, but thankfully this one went our way in the actual race itself. I mean, the race did cut up. Obviously, Nickelback wasn't declared. Le Patron was a non-runner on the day. That kind of meant that Pembroke was allowed an easy lead. Both Blow Your Wad and Tahmuras were both kind of pushed along, coming round the bend, and you thought, how's this going to go? And then suddenly Pembroke was dropped away and the two kind of big guns had gone past. I loved what Blow Your Wad did. I think he's now obviously 3 from 3 at Kempton. I think that's probably his track. I think they're going to keep him to flat tracks, could head to Aintree next. I know Tahmuras is going to be called a few names, but I thought this was a lot better from him. Obviously, he's shown better form in cheap pieces. I think a further step up in trip would actually suit him as well. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes up to 3 miles. The handicap has raised him a pound up to a mark of 144. So Tahmuras in kind of some of those 3-mile handicap chases, either at the end of this season or next season, I wouldn't give up on him.
Yeah, Tahmuras, I think, well done to the Nicholls team actually, because he went a bit sour, it looked to me, towards the end of last season, and then this season didn't start off as well initially, but he's got his act together. And I think the front two are horses that you'd want to be on side with, at least for the near future.
I agree. I think they've both got a big top-end handicap in them somewhere down the line. What I like with Blow Your Wad, Tahmuras, he took a while to get going under heavy company, but then he found that momentum and rhythm from the back of the second last. Blow Your Wad was travelling more comfortably. I just thought he's not going to see him. The momentum's going to sweep him past before he can react. But the way that Blow Your Wad picked up and then hit the land so hard, landed running at the last, that was a really smart performance, a really interesting race. Yeah. And I'd imagine it's handicaps for the two. I mean, was it 145, 144? But there should be a good one in them on the right tracks and under the right conditions.
Yeah, they both put in a good leap, went under pressure at the last as well, which was noticeable. That's I always think is a good sign when youngsters can do that. The Dovecote Novices Hurdle, Lump Sum Fiercely Proud, obviously franking the Jericho de Reponnet Doncaster run. But Lump Sum looks like he has improved again, and probably so has Fiercely Proud.
I think Lump Sum's really interesting in that Sam Twiston-Davies afterwards said things didn't go according to plan. He wasn't sure how well he was going, so I gave him a squeeze, and he's taken off under him. So he's found himself in front long before he wanted to. I can remember going to the lavish Cheltenham Weights lunch. I don't think you were presenting it that year, Rishi, but it was at Cheltenham Weights.
It's not lavish enough, is it?
No, it's not. The budget didn't stretch that far. But Martin Greenwood was saying that rather than moaning, the British traders need to start running the right type of horses in the Cheltenham handicaps, that we were running exposed older horses in against novices that were yet to find their level. And it was interesting that Lump Sum, all roads lead back from the Welsh champion hurdle, but he's in the county, he's in the Martin Pipe. I think the big field, strong pace scenario, lots of cover, is going to really suit this horse. Look, there might be 1 or 2 Irish horses absolutely thrown in, but he's just the sort of horse we should be aiming at these festival handicaps, there's still upside in him.
I agree. I like him a lot. You know, before, in fact, after the Jericho de Repano race, I felt that he was going to learn a lot from that run, and it appeared to be the case last Saturday.
Yeah, everyone's gone from not rating that form to then even the handicapper has put Jericho de Repano up £4 today, up to a mark of 136. So it does look stronger form than what we've actually thought at the time. I love what Sam Thomas and Di Walters do with these horses. They just give them plenty of time. It wouldn't be the end of the world if they skip Cheltenham. I would like him for some of those. I mean, he's 12-1 for the County with Bet365, 10-1 for the Martin Pipe. It's interesting what Sam Twiston-Davies said afterwards. He's got plenty of pace, but it just kind of lulled him into thinking that he wasn't going to get there. But yeah, I was really impressed with this. He's 4 from 6 in his career now. He's improved every start according to the figures. So yeah, progressive type and yeah, nice horse for the future.
Sticking with Sam Thomas, they must have felt it was going to be their day in every respect, going down to the last in the big handicap chase with old Al Dancer.
Yeah, I felt really sorry for Dylan Johnson. I thought he gave him a fantastic ride. He's unexposed at the trip, to be fair to Al Dancer. He hasn't actually tried 3 miles a lot in his career, and you kind of think there's a good veterans chase campaign now, isn't there, over 2.5 and 3 miles. So yeah, there's definitely some fun to be had with him still. I thought it was a brilliant ride from Ben Godfrey. To win. I loved his Mikel Barcelona style celebration. Thankfully he had just over a length winning distance as opposed to winning in a photo finish. But yeah, the complexion of the race completely changed after the last. I was impressed with that from Forward Plan. He's a nice horse. His revised rating, looking at it, £3 rise. So yeah, that's fair enough. A mark of 136 is likely to head to Aintree next, and yeah, you could see people support him at that price.
Yeah, Anthony Honeyball has had a terrific season, really. If you think back to the Badger Beer all the way through to winning that big race on Saturday.
Wonderful, isn't it? And the fact that he ran 3, he found this opportunity. I'll probably touch on it later, but it was for the money on offer. To 25, 30,000 more in the prize pot than this for the Ultimate, and you've got a 12-winner's field, of which Anthony ran 3. I was pleased that he won it, and I was really taken by the winner because it was that moment between going to the second last. He's got plenty left in the tank. Then he was weaving around trying to find space. The way he picked up to put the race to bed and get to Al Dancer, who ran such a great race, I think £3 is very fair. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he went well at Aintree. I thought he should have won the Great Yorkshire Chase the time before. Just ran into trouble that day and got going late. But what the sort of story of his races is how strong he is through that final furlong, and I think there's plenty left in the lock. I think 3 is very fair.
Well, I thought the run you're talking about when he was second to Annual Invictus, I thought he had every chance to go past, and I thought I'm going to question it because he's come to get him and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
But then every doubt I had was smashed to smithereens at Kempton on the weekend. Not for the first time.
It's a great game, isn't it?
It keeps you very much with your feet planted. The Eider. What is Brian Ellison doing with Anglers Crag? I asked the question last week. We weren't sure, but I'll ask it again.
It's wonderful, isn't it? I love Brian. Dual-purpose trainer. That meant so much to him winning the big jumps race of the season at Newcastle. I mean, if you want more jumpers, then just put that on your website and say, send horses here. The improvement is found. The horse is sweet, isn't it? And the thing that struck me was that mistake at the second last. Well, that's him done for. He lost momentum. He had to pick him back up again and get there. And he was on top at the finish again. Tremendous training performance. Look, I don't know if the horse is going to go on from there. He doesn't need to. It's 4 on the bounce, winning an Eider Chase for a yard that we're having a great time of it. And hopefully, spoiler alert, more to come this weekend too.
Yeah, possibly. But just tell me about the performance, because like Dave's mentioned, everyone would have seen. At the second to last, you're thinking, that mistake might just cost him. Prince de Fisho gone. Especially
for a horse who'd never gone over further than 3 mile 2. That was the concern, wasn't it, coming into this race, is whether he'd stay. And yeah, he'd have been well entitled to fade after making that bad mistake at the second last. I thought Henry Brook rode him brilliantly. By all accounts, he's a quirky horse, and yeah, to deliver him to win by a neck, I thought was a nice performance. The handicappers raised him £8. I know they pulled a fair way clear, but £8 for a neck victory might seem a little bit harsh, up to 134. But he'll get into all those kind of nationals next season. Yeah, nice horse.
And another name in Henry Brook who has come forward this season. Obviously, he's had some big winners with En Public, but Geskill, and obviously the tragic loss of Geskill, and his reaction probably has given us more from Henry Brook than we've ever had. And a lot of people are more aware of his skills in the saddle and the fact that he's actually now, you know, a very, very good jockey in a big race.
He is. He's really good, isn't he? That day at Cheltenham, he just stood out, didn't he? The raw emotion that he showed in 2 interviews on ITV and Racing TV in quite quick succession. It was so raw and emotional. Showed just how hurt he was and what it meant to him. But as a jockey, he's developing all the time. He has been over the last few years on the Northern Circuit. He makes very few mistakes. Wins the odd race he shouldn't win as well, which is always a telltale sign that he's a really good jockey and he's riding full of confidence, as he will be. He's getting lots of winners and good rides on the Northern Circuit. Yeah,
onwards and upwards for Henry Brook. Lots of other racing to look back on, whether you want to go to Ireland, a couple of other performances at Kempton. The floor is open.
I'm going to grab the Bobby Joe,
please,
which is obviously a big Grand National point. We had Vanillier running, who was Grand National favourite going into it and remained so. It was a step back in the right direction for him, wasn't it? It was headgear back on. He ran better, and I'm sure he was probably about 75%, and the extra 25% is going to be found now. For Iron Maximus, I think he was more ready. I think it was more, let's go. And he won. Now, you've got Vanillier in the Grand National, who there'll be very few horses better treated than. But on strictly form chances, very few will have a better chance than Iron Maximus. The only problem, as William Mullins alluded to afterwards, is how he gets from A to B over his fences. It's unique. And I think you'll know after 2 or 3 fences whether he's taken to Aintree or not. People said he wouldn't win an Irish National because of his jumping. He did. If he takes to it, he's a massive player in the Grand National on the handicap rating that he's got and the ability that he's got. They think he's a Gold Cup horse next season. He's going to be trained that way. Grand National's the target this season. It will be fascinating, but it'd be one I think you might be watching behind the sofa for the first 2 or 3 fences if you backed him before you warm to the action.
I must admit, watching the race again on the weekend, I actually watched it with the sound down because I didn't want to disturb people that I was with. But watching it, you watched him jump a couple of fences, you think, it's not looking great. He's slow, he's a little bit ponderous, he's gone left. You're thinking, well, he's not going to win this.
Markedly left. Like, for a horse who jumps that far left-handed, his record at Fairyhouse is quite remarkable. And the way that he kind of runs, he's got a remarkable action. Like, his legs go in all different directions. So you would say, obviously, soft ground will probably be important to him, but they're never going to let the National get too quick ground-wise, so that wouldn't be a concern. He's now into 10-1 favourite with Bet365 for the Grand National, and you can completely see why. I like the performance.
Okay. Anything else from the weekend?
The Golden Nichols' winner of the handicap chase.
Golden Sun.
I thought that was quite tip because you've touched on him earlier with Tim Overs. I think they've got the wheels back on this fella, haven't they? Which it's taken a while to work out. Cheltenham ran really well. He's in again at the weekend. But I think the winner's a really interesting project. The headgear went on, it worked. And if you look at the form in France, what he was doing before he joined Current Connections, there's plenty of leeway in that handicap market. They've got him sweet and back on an upward curve.
Was it Iroko that beat him? Was that the race that he ran?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. He's been sent off some short price favourites, and then kind of has appeared to lose his way. But yeah, those cheap pieces really helped. I wouldn't rule out a step up in trip as well. He was doing all his best work at the finish. I think 3 miles again would be somewhere where he'll be going. If
it was one of those shows like in the States where you repeat something week after week and they ring a bell, we'd be doing it now. I just wanted to mention Harry Cobden's ride on that horse. Yeah. You know, for a horse that I felt lost his confidence somewhat in his previous couple of runs. Harry Cobden made his mind up for him in that home straight, kept him in it, was off the bridle, gave him the daylight so he wasn't in behind and getting his jumping any way impeded. Terrific, probably the ride of the weekend for me in a strong field.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, a few other ones to mention. I thought Mark of Gold obviously won the opener at Kempton on Saturday for the 2nd year in a row. No Ordinary Joe was obviously the huge eye catcher in 3rd. Lost a shoe, which I think probably saved them from a bit more investigation from the stewards. But he's now into 12-1 for the Martin Pipe.
After the race, social media completely awash with what we all saw, which was, oh, no, Ordinary Joe's had the perfect prep for whatever the target's going to be. I mean, but it's one of those things that you know the MO of how these horses are prepped for the festival handicap. So kind of expect that sort of run.
I touched on it last week. Like the return to soft ground was important to him. The Kempton, the step up in trip. Like it was just whether it was the day or not, and you could kind of tell from the betting that it wasn't going to be. He
travelled lovely, didn't he? About 4 or 5 lengths off where he'd need to be if he was going to be competitive down the straight. But yeah, it's a big eye catcher.
Yes. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're right. There was a few on Sunday that took my eye. Bottler's Secret I thought was very good in that Grade 3 juvenile hurdle. Now 16-1 with Bet365 for the Triumph. He was rated 87 on the flat, but only ran 3 times, won 2 out of his 3 starts. So he was really unexposed. His jumping improved as he went on through that contest, and you'd imagine he'd be heading there. Justified strong market support that day. Fernie Hollow, it was great to see back. Won the Newlands Chase, now 7-1 for the Champion Chase, but I think they're unlikely to take up that engagement for a horse who was returning from 791 days off the track. It's remarkable to think kind of how unexposed he still is. That was only his 3rd chase start, his 8th start under rules at the age of 9. But I thought he settled a lot better and jumped a lot better than he did previously. Yeah. So, yeah, that was really encouraging for Fairyhouse, Aintree, Punchestown, wherever they obviously then want to target for him. Probably the most impressive winner on the card was William Money in the bumper. We'll head to Punchestown next. I
Best
know,
bumper horse in Ireland, according to Trent.
Well, Barry Connell thinks he's got the best of everything, doesn't he? But yeah, I was really impressed with that performance. You wouldn't surprise you if he was second favourite for that Punchestown Grade 1 bumper with whatever wins the champion bumper if it's from Ireland. Yeah, that will test the Cheltenham bumper form to see how good that was. That was a really good race. All 5 were previous winners. Yeah. So that was good. And then a quick mention for Mr. Van Gogh. He won by a fence at Exeter on Friday in the Devon National. That was off a mark of 120. The handicap has put him up £12. He is, interestingly, still entered for the National Hunt Chase, where he's a standout 33-1 with Bet365. So you don't often get horses winning by a fence over those extended trips. So if a bit of soft ground on the day, it wouldn't surprise me if they chucked him in there.
Can I just make a point re Fernie Hollow? Because I completely agree with it. I don't think it will run at Cheltenham, and Willie Mullins looks very cold on the idea. Ferris and Punchestown. But somebody made the point to me that you imagine it's so hard to keep the wheels on him. If he comes out this race sound, trots up sound, the chances of him 12 months on being around to taking a champion chase, his profile said it's not guaranteed. It just makes me wonder if Cheveley Park Stud might just get on the phone next Monday and how is he come out of it? And if we're ever going to go for it, it's this year. And he would actually shake the race up a little bit, and that we think it's a match at the minute.
I was just about to ask, so how would you price it up with, what difference would it make to El Fabiola and John Bond's positions and their prices if Fernie Hollow was thrown in the mix? Bearing in mind, 4 runs over obstacles in 3.5 years, but obviously he's the horse who beat Bob Ollinger, he was bumper winner, champion bumper winner, etc.
I think if they make the right noises, and Patrick Mullins or Ruby Walsh or David Casey tips him up to preview night, then it probably might get into about 9-2. I think 70 is about right. But we should mention Edwardstone, shouldn't we? Because I'd love them. They keep saying they're not going to do it, but to just adopt those same tactics at Newbury, because the way he jumped, the 2 big guns have both got a mistake or 2 in them. That's the Achilles heel. Even El Fabiolo will clout the odd one. He did on his reappearance, didn't he? And it's just all of a sudden there's 1 or 2 different angles to that champion chase, which is invigorating given the campaign that we've had so far.
Good word.
Thank you
for Cheltenham. Invigorated the Queen Mother Champion Chase picture.
Tactically, that would, if Fernie Hollow's in there, because Fernie Hollow you'd imagine will be held up. So you'd have Edwardstone, I think it's just a double bluff, isn't it? Edwardstone making the run in. You'll then have El Fabiola and John Bond prominent. Yeah. And then suddenly you'll then have Fernie Hollow, if he's still on their coattails, kind of as the final kind of closer late on. So it would be a fascinating race from a race that we thought was a 1-horse race about 3 weeks ago. We
should praise Nick Hendon gets pelters for Constitution Hill. John Bond has danced every dance you'd expect him to dance this season. So I'd love to see him run well. It's all the way the pattern, if we can even call it that, is set up, the programme book for Cheltenham. He's gone in all the right 2-mile chases to take him there. So I'd like to see him run well.
I'm going to mention one other horse for the week, and it's off the back of Madara winning at the Dublin Racing Festival. Marsh Wren, going over Stuart Edmonds and winning that Mayor's Novice Chase at Thurles in the week, just shows that initiative, they can be beaten in their own backyard. Hopefully it will encourage more people, do you think, to have a pop at some of the good prizes in Ireland?
I think it will, and I think what's really interesting is that Harry Devon, straight after giving me 5, was pointing to Fairyhouse, that they are thinking slightly. They're looking at how close Cheltenham and Fairyhouse this year, and if Team Mullins have got 75 runners at Cheltenham, they won't have their usual team at Fairyhouse, and that might open the door for 1 or 2, but there's big money on offer over there, isn't there? And they are winnable races, as we are proving.
Well, they are talking about overall their prize money suffering, but in the good races, their prize money holds up.
Yeah, definitely. Antti Hannibal is always one to look at. I think he's going to target a couple at the Punchestown Festival again, and he's got a really good record there. So you've kind of got to look at what trainers send over there. I know on the flat, sort of Roger Varian has a good record on the flat over in Ireland as well. So yeah, if he runs one in the Irish Champion Stakes and things like that, there's just certain trainers that know the horses to target, and they don't waste their time going over with no hopers.
Okay. Are we closing anything else nothing else to mention? All right. And I think overall did okay on last weekend with...
We did.
Yeah. Well, I was just riding the coattails, but I'm going to say yes, we did. And that has been Racing Recap. Before we get into our weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor Bet365 have an ITV Racing price promise. They will not be beaten on price on any horse for all UK and Irish races shown live on ITV Racing. Full T's and C's can be found on the website. And just a reminder that tickets are on sale. The last few tickets are on sale for our live Cheltenham preview. It's at the King George pub in Chiswick on the evening of the 6th of March. Steve, myself, Gavin Lynch, Willie Twiston-Davies and Pat Cooney will all be putting our considerable talents to finding a few winners for the Cheltenham Festival. Tickets are £15. Of course, it includes a pie and a pint. There are only a few left, so hopefully, if you do want to come along, there'll still be a ticket available for you. That's our Cheltenham preview, King George pub, Chiswick, 6th of March. Hopefully, see you there. Now time to look ahead at the racing, or the best of the racing that we've got coming up this weekend. Bet365 sponsoring at Kelso on the weekend, Dave. Let's go to the Moor Battle Hurdle, which has a big field of entries.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
What's going on?
A big field, all seemingly wanting to run as well, which is the blessing. We've got a buzz horse as well. There's obviously the bonus that takes you into the county hurdle. This has worked well. It's helped to track the big field. We've got the buzz horse with Under Control, Finicky Henderson, who ran so well in that mare's hurdle, behind Astro Diamond at Doncaster. I don't know, is there a slight concern about the Henderson stable form at the minute? I mean, 6 of the last 7 have pulled up. Now, it's a small sample size, a yard that big, and it was all over 2 meetings. It might have been ground related, whatever. But the big guns aren't running their big guns necessarily at the minute, so maybe the form would waver. But it's just one factor that people are pointing to for her. I like a more speculative mare in this race. Brian Ellison, who we touched upon earlier, who won the Eider last week, won Salsadar, a mare I knew from her days with Jed O'Keefe on the flat, and I followed her a little bit. She was really well fresh. She was second last year to Epatont in the same race that Under Control was second in at Doncaster on a reappearance. This is her return. She's been dropped £4 since finishing 5th in the Scottish Champion Hurdle on a final start last season, and she just got going too late that day. It was a bit of a tactical affair. She needs an end-to-end gallop. She'll get that here. She's handicapped to run a big race. I think the ground's going to be fine. There's a bit of rain around Kelso every day of the week. Not masses, but a little bit around all week. The ground will be on the soft side. And I think I don't know what price she was about 16 to 1. She was put in. The yard going well. She's firmly on my radar for this. I think she's an interesting bet.
Yeah, 16 to 1 indeed. Bet365 for that Moor Battle. The favourite is Under Control at 7 to 2. Black Hawk Eagle 5 to 1. Brucio is 6s, 10s bar those. How do you see it?
I'm looking at one at a big price as well. I thought Cracking Rhapsody was an interesting horse at 20 to 1. Needs 3 to come out to get into the race, but normally that wouldn't be an issue. It defied odds of 14 to 1 to win a bumper for a yard who've only had 4 bumper winners since Ewan Whelans took out the licence 3 years ago. So it's rare for them to have a bumper winner. Beat the now 125 rated Eider Chase in a novice hurdle, and that rival obviously boosted the form, finishing 3rd behind Lump Sum on Saturday. Finished 2nd on his handicap debut, and then won over this course and distance off a mark of 115. He's only £4 higher here, off a mark of 119, and I thought that was quite lenient. Obviously, they had Prince de Fauché, obviously finished 2nd in the Eider, so the yard are going well, and I thought 20 to 1 was quite a big price for Cracking Rhapsody.
All right, so 20 to 1 Cracking Rhapsody, 16 to 1 Salsada. I'm going to give one more chance to Any Harm in Asking. I watched back at all those races again. Should have won the Welsh Champion Hurdle, I think, and he kept straight. Then he went to, if you look back at the run in the Greatwood, travelling as well as anything coming down the hill, turns into the straight. And although he doesn't finish the race off, which is the concern because he's done that a couple of times now, you watch the way and he's only that far behind. And if you look through the horses, it's Nemean Lion, Iberico Lord, Look Away, Sonigino. It's the 2 mile in Britain. It's the best 2 mile handicap hurdle form, and he's right on the tail, and he didn't finish his race off. Again, he did something similar at Doncaster where he travels and then doesn't quite. But I can't believe that they wouldn't. He's had a bit of a. Hopefully they'll have done something with him because I can't believe that's him. And I'm giving him one more chance at 16 to 1. So hopefully, Any Harm. We've got 3 big ones. under control, probably bolt up. But, we've gone with 3 double-figure prices in the Bet365 More Battle Handicap Hurdle. The Bet365 Premier Chase, this is a listed race. Just going to call up the prices for this and tell you that Monbeg Genius, 5-2 favourite, Empire Steel 7-2, I Write 9-2, Elvis Mail 5-1, Thunder Rock 7s, and then 11-1 or bigger the remainder. Give you first shot at this, Steve. Who do you like?
Yeah, I highlighted the Sandy Thompson form last week when I was going for Flower of Scotland, and yeah, I'm chancing another Sandy Thompson runner this weekend in the shape of last year's winner, Empire Steel. Beat Lamilos by 3/4 of a length in the race last year, albeit it was only a 4-runner race, and obviously it's a better renewal this year. That was a mark of 141. He was only a pound higher when winning here over 2 mile, 5.5 furlongs, beating Nell's Son by 4 lengths. Thought that was good form. Handicappers only raised him £3, which I think is very lenient. And that was his first run after a wind operation. So if that has brought out some improvement from him, I thought 7-2 was very fair on a race he won last year.
We are riding Empire Steel together. I mean, he's got a terrific record at Kelso. I think back in the day beat Protectorat. So Empire Steel for me as well. Steve's highlighted it. You gonna?
I like Empire Steel. He would probably be the selection. I think there's a couple of interesting angles. We've got Monbeg Genius, who obviously dominating. He's been on the front page as well as the back page of the build-up to the Grand National, and I'm sure Ed Chamberlain and the ITV team will be on 10 to see how he does on the big day at Aintree.
Wow.
Look,
What a day that would be.
The great game would deliver once again, wouldn't it?
It never fails, is it?
No, never fails. There's a horse I'm really interested in called Your Own Story, and I don't think it's necessarily Saturday. It will be the reappearance. It was due to run at Carlisle in the autumn and didn't, but it was just a really progressive chaser last year. He went off joint favourite for the Scottish National and didn't run it all badly. And I think there's more to come this time. There's an entry in the Midlands Grand National. I'd imagine Air will be on the agenda again as well. I'd be very interested to see how Your Own Story runs for the Russell team if he does take up this engagement on his reappearance. But yeah, sadly, it's a third vote for Empire Steel. I think Kelso know how so important it's brilliant track to visit, isn't it? But if you're effective around there once, it's a big benefit.
Okay, 33-1, Your Own Story. If you're,
I think that tells its own story, pardon the pun.
Lovely. It's great to have an actual wordsmith on the show.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, let's talk about the Bet365 Premier Novices Hurdle. That's a Grade 2 race. And again, a huge field of entries, 23. Django Bay, 15-8 favourite. We know about what he did at Aintree. Personal Ambition, 11-2. Al Nalam, 13-2, a horse I like. Cannock Park, 8-1, 8-1 Intense Approach, and then double figures and bigger the remainder. How do you like, or what do you like here? Actually, I'm going to start with you here, Dave.
I'm taking the favourite on. I don't think it was the trip last time because he was under pressure a long way out, wasn't he, behind Sandy? He was turning in, he was under pressure. I meant to touch on Henderson form. This is the day when he has 5 winners at Kelso, and you're talking next week about that. I like Personal Ambition. He was dropped back to 2 miles last time. He ran that Winter Novice Hurdle, it didn't quite happen for him. Back to 2 at Doncaster. I think 2-2 might be his optimum trip. I mean, we all know what a season the Yard are having. I think gets out in front, gets into a rhythm. I think he'll take a bit of passing. He's a horse I have an awful lot of time for. And I think he's a sporting bet at the prices against that favourite.
Okay, 11-2, Personal Ambition. What about you?
We're definitely sharing notes on this on this show this week. Yeah, Personal Ambition was one for me.
Okay.
I think Bet365 obviously seen our notes as well. They're ducking him at 11-2. There is bigger out there. Yeah, informed Ben Pauling Yard, and yeah, the form with Jinko Blue obviously beat him by 3.5 lengths on his hurdling debut at Warwick, and obviously he was the horse that bolted up at Sandown. It's now rated 140 and could go for one of those Grade 1s at Cheltenham. So the form is there. Won last time here on good to soft ground, so the better ground, well, the forecast is supposed to be okay this week. Shouldn't be a concern, and yeah, he's obviously in receipt of £5 from Django Bay. So yeah, 11-2 for me.
Well, I'm taking on the favourite as well because I like Al Nalam, who absolutely bolted up at Kelso. I mean, it was almost watching the race going again. The jockey could barely hold on to him all the way through, and he ran really well first time up, where it looked like he needed that run when he finished 4th at Newbury. And the race has worked out at the top end of the race. Those horses that finished ahead and just around him have come out and won. And the visual impression of what he did when he won, he beat Ted 2. It could have been by a country mile. He won so easily. He's flatbred. He's obviously by Sea the Stars. Very good pedigree. So 13-2, 11-2 Personal Ambition. We're all taking on Django Bay. The Henderson team hoping to bounce back and defy the doubters. #doubters this weekend. Okay, let's move to Newbury and the Greatwood Gold Cup on Saturday. Demnat is 5-1 for the Venetia Williams team. Outlaw Peter 6-1. High stakes player 7s, Can Do Kid 7s, 8's Grandeur Dam and Thunder Rock has obviously got a couple of entries, and then 10's bar those. How do you see this one going, Steve?
I thought Demnat was interesting. Was off 961 days before a stable debut last time. The layoff is one thing. Venetia Williams has a great record with these horses. Obviously, the stable's in a little bit of poor form at the minute, currently operating at 4%. But the market that day was really interesting. He was forecast to be 5-1 when I sent my selections in for the paper, and I thought, yep, he'll be in next best at that price. And then when I was then doing my odds checker column in the morning, he was about 9-4, and I thought, okay, I'll leave him at that price. And then drifted all the way out to an SP of 15-2, hacked up by 15 lengths of a mark of 122, and is now £10 higher. Yeah. So whether obviously paddock watchers and he wasn't fit, but there was something with the market that day. So yeah, to win by 15 lengths was impressive. The thing that's interesting with him is the Cheltenham entries. So he's still entered in the Ultima, the Kinmure, the Plate, and the Grand Annual. So obviously when they were doing with the entries, they didn't know what trip it would be on. But off a mark of 132, it would be touch and go whether he'd get into those Cheltenham handicaps. So you'd imagine he's here to win, and 5-1 for a horse, as long as he doesn't bounce, and obviously the stable form would be a slight worry. I thought he was a fair price at 5-1.
And they had 900 days to decide what race they wanted to run in.
Sloppy, isn't it?
Yeah, come on. Demnat for you?
No. You can see the chance. I'd be slightly worried about the second run back. I always roll out that one after such a protracted absence. It's
second run after a wind up, second run back.
Yeah,
bounce.
Yeah,
what other cliches can we shoehorn into this?
Give me a minute. I'll get one by the time. I was quite glad you pronounced this one when they're betting, because I've been calling it something completely different.
Demna.
No. Grandeur Dam is my
okay.
Is my fancy. I was at Wetherby when he won first time out this season, and you don't see horses win round there like he did. He was deadly at the fences, so quick and slick, and he I mean, we mentioned also earlier, Exeter won by a fence last week. He could have won by a fence. That day was so good. Raised in class next time in the Paddy Power Gold Cup, ran a cracker to finish fourth. You could argue he was in the right place to finish fourth. It was a race where the pace, bar the winner, Fugitive, held up and the horses that were up there. And then he departed at the first in the December race next time. Freshened up since. I think he showed in that Paddy Power Gold Cup he can be competitive off this handicap mark. I think a flat left-handed track like Newbury's going to really suit him. He often get up there, get into a rhythm. He's going to be doing that, and I think he'll run a massive race. And I put a word in for Cheltenham as well. I don't know if he'll run, having been at Kempton last week, but that race didn't quite unfold for him, did it? It was a bit of a messy race for him, and he rallied strongly again after the last. I'm sure there's a good race in him somewhere this spring, and I'd be very interested if the Skeltons roll the dice again this weekend.
Okay, 14-1 at the moment, Cheltenham for the Greatwood Gold Cup. High stakes player for Tom Lacey, another horse who won after a layoff, dropping back entry, I think will suit him as well. In the Greatwood, so I'm going to take a chance on him. He's 7-1. Let's talk about the Grimthorpe up at Doncaster, and some scope, 4-1 favourite, very good on his last couple of starts. The handicappers hit him pretty hard for the win at Doncaster. Gitmaker, or Gitmaker, I mean, who knows? 6-1. Under supervision, 6-1. Java Point, 7s. Does he know Java? Java.
Java.
Earn River 8-1, and then 11-1. Bar those. Who has a strong view on this race?
I liked some scope in this. I know I've tipped a couple of favourites, but at least they're 4-1 and 5-1 in the big handicap chases. But yeah, like you said, won his previous 2 starts, beat the Ferrymaster by 7.5 lengths. The handicapper was risen in £10, which on the face of it, beating an 11-year-old 7.5 lengths would probably seem a bit harsh. But if you go back and watch it, he's absolutely cruise clear despite making a mistake at the second last. Really progressive, and I think he could beat his elders here. We kind of touched on the campaign in the horses. William Money, obviously earlier, is a 6-year-old still running in bumpers, has ran twice, and this lad's running over fences in handicap chases at the age of 6. So really progressive, and yeah, I thought 4-1 was fair.
Okay, how do you see that?
He's the one, isn't he? I don't think the handicap mark will necessarily stop him. The handicapper will get him at some stage. It might be another run's time. But I'm trying to pivot your screen for the price of Charlie Uberales.
11-1.
11-1. I thought he's quite interesting. One bomb out this season was in the Welsh National, which, given what the ground was like that day, and it was a trip to Chepstow, I'll forgive. And he ran really well in that Great Yorkshire Chase, we touched upon earlier with Forward Plan, finished 3rd that day at Doncaster. He's only up a pound. He's probably right at the top level of where he needs to be handicap-wise, and he's not got the scope for improvement, etc., etc. But a horse has run well around Doncaster before. He'll do so again. And I think at about 11-1, there might be extra places on the day if you wait long enough. I think he could run well in a very open race.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can also see Does He Know running better as well. I know he's obviously got to give weight all round, but his last 2 runs, obviously if you look back at his form, he's one of higher marks in the past, handicap. His last 2 runs have been in company that are just straight, obviously he's just not at that level. Shishkin at Newbury last time, and then the Lingfield race, the Fleur de Lis behind Protectorat and L'Homme Pressé. I know he's beaten a long way, but it wasn't totally disgraced. Just this is probably more his bag these days. And he's off 149, so I think still of interest. Does He Know in the Grimthorpe on Saturday. Now, is there anything else running on the weekend? Before we get your numero uno for the weekend, is there anything else that you've signalled?
No, but what I want to say about this weekend is it's often been the dull one, the boring one before Cheltenham. We've got the Imperial Cup next Saturday, and it's, what is it? It's Kelso, Newbury. And isn't it a really, really strong weekend's racing? Now you look at it, the growth of this Kelso card, Newbury's held up really well. The Grimthorpe's going to be competitive. It just feels like a proper Saturday's racing, which hasn't always been the case over the years.
Should we call it a Premier race day?
Oh, have you got the symbol to put on screen?
I would like to maybe create some sort of a crazy, amazing sort of logo to really highlight what an important weekend it is.
And they've got the big race, they've got the space to breathe as well, haven't they?
Yes.
It's all there.
I mean, how many meetings will we have on Saturday afternoon in the glory slot?
Oh, 2. No,
or 3?
Yeah, 3, isn't it? Yeah,
2 or 3.
They've stuck another one in somehow.
Facetious. Awful human beings, aren't we?
In fairness, though, Bet365 have put a load of money into the prize money at Kelso, and the fields have come for it. Like Dave touched on earlier,
but that, I mean, Kelso have been attracting good horses and good races for a while, and obviously the support of Bet365. It's just the idea of the Premier race days has been. I'm disappointed that they haven't made more of it. I mean, it's been 2 months now.
Yeah. I genuinely did think the theory would be that Kelso would breathe this week as the Premier. The ITV cameras are there. This is a meeting. This is going to be front and centre to the Saturday's racing. There's 3-4 really competitive races. Let's give them space to breathe. Let's be able to tell the stories that people concentrate. And
exactly that.
It isn't the case.
No. Sorry, we've digressed away from the quality racing. And anything else that you want to?
Yeah, I've got 4 to note. A couple are on Newbury on Friday. The first, and it wouldn't be a betting proposition, but I just thought it of interest.
Got my pen ready.
If it wins, we're going to claim it on the show next week.
I'm going to write it down anyway.
2:25 at Newbury. Lady Bamford has sent Nicky Henderson, Governor of India, to go juvenile hurdling. This is going to be one of the best bred juvenile hurdlers this season. Didn't live up to his breeding on the flat for John Gosden, only rated 73, but is a Debawi out of Star of Seville, who obviously won the French Oak. So, yeah, very, very, very interesting going juvenile hurdling. It was also entered at Kelso on Saturday as well. So, obviously, intention is to run for the less informed Nicky Henderson outfit.
Wait till Saturday.
One that you can obviously then have a look at back in if declared. 4:45 at Newbury on Friday. Young Butler should prove hard to beat in that 3-mile handicap hurdle. Won his final start for Emma Lavelle last season, and then beat Emerton by 2 lengths over this course and distance on his stable debut for Harry Derham. That rival has obviously boosted the form, winning off a £5 higher mark. He's only £6 higher in this race, and he'd have obvious chances at Newbury.
Is that in
Friday.
the 3-mile qualifier handicap hurdle?
Are we going against each other?
Is that on Friday?
It is.
Yeah, okay. We might be going against each other.
Fair enough.
Well, we might. I'm not definite. I've also got a doubly entered horse in that. So.
Okay. 3 o'clock Newbury Saturday. Brentford Hope runs at Newbury. Obviously, a track that he's shown good form at. Was a late non-runner in the Betfair Hurdle. But this is a weaker race. Obviously won there by 16 lengths of a mark 122, and then finished 3rd in that Jerry Fielden. He's only £1 higher in this, so I thought Brentford Hope was interesting at Newbury. And then in the 4:50 at Doncaster, a 2-mile handicap hurdle, I thought Densworth was interesting. Yeah. I touched on the informed Ben Pooling yard. Obviously, the stable has just turned inside out with the change of location. He won 2 novice hurdles last year by 9.5 lengths and 29 lengths.
Southall, he absolutely... something came down late on, but he bolted up.
Absolutely bolted up. He then pulled up on his handicap debut at Aintree. They chucked him in. So they obviously think that he's well regarded. He's £4 lower here, which I think is very, very generous from the handicapper. Mark of 120, stable in much better form. I thought, Densworth in the 4:50 at Doncaster on Saturday.
Yeah, I like Densworth a lot. I watched him through his novice season, and he looks like a really talented horse. I don't think he's entirely straightforward, but yeah, he pulled up at Aintree. I was waiting. I thought he'd have come back by now, and I half thought they might have gone chasing with him because It's quite a sizable individual. But interesting that he's coming back off of that 120.
He's got to be better than a mark.
Yeah.
The reduced mark's a surprise, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
From a complete blowout. And Matt Brocklebank put him up as his horse of the week on
has he?
on our site as well. He's on a lot of radar, and you can understand why. You can definitely see he's one who.
I feel reassured.
Please do, Rishi.
Thank
Please
you.
do.
Thank you. I'm just going to mention Thunderclap, who absolutely bolted up at Kempton. It's the first time that he raced over further than 2 miles. He's got 2 entries on Friday. One is in that 3 mile up against Young Butler. The other is in the 2.5 mile conditional jockeys handicap hurdle. Either one, I'm going to probably back him, but let's hope he goes in the 2.5 mile conditional jockeys handicap hurdle. I think that if he goes in that, I think he'll take some beating. And obviously, if he doesn't, then he might have to see off Young Butler. So those would be the...
Nice forecast.
What a double on the day. I mean, now we're talking. Right. Is there anything else that in the world of racing that you think we don't address enough? Maybe. Oh, come on! I want to open.
I think we'll get Dave a Cheltenham horse, shall we?
A Cheltenham horse, maybe. Yeah.
Obviously, it's a bit annoying at the time at the minute. We haven't obviously got handicap weights and bits and pieces coming out, which are obviously going to be out today. But
I'm in great form with Cheltenham horse. I put up Lecky Watson for the handicaps, and he hasn't got a single handicap entry. The only horse at William Mullins that hasn't got one. Full stop. He hasn't got one. Yeah. But there is a Mullins one in the county hurdle I'm really interested in, and I'm going to pronounce this appallingly, even though it's probably very simple to pronounce. Bailey Stock. It's a Richie horse.
Yes.
And it got brought down in that really competitive handicap hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival. Now, it was hard on the bridle.
Yeah.
It's tramming along. Too far out to know. But they've thought for a long time this is a really well handicapped horse. We had Joe Chambers, spoke to Joe Chambers early in the season. He was his one to follow. They think, Willie mentioned in our stable tour this week, they think he's on a really good mark. And that if it's good ground at Cheltenham, he's a really big player. And the other one from the Mullins stable, I've touched upon it earlier, is Madgeborough in the JCB Triumph. I'm just getting the distinct...
Steve's all over that.
Yeah, I'm getting the distinct impression they think that's the number one from close. Certainly, it was interesting that Salvatore Mundi, he might run. He might make his debut in the Triumph. Willie just said it's only small niggling issues. If he runs this season, he's going to run him on debut in the Triumph, and he'll run in the Grade 1 at Punchestown. If he wins one, brilliant. If he doesn't, he's got a nice novice hurdler for next season. But the way he talks about Madgeborough, that Mark Walsh learnt so much from him that first time, that they've been able to get stuck into him, work him out more at home now. They think he's come on in leaps and bounds. And I don't know, I'm growing in confidence that Sergino was so good on trials day. I think he'll take the world of beating. But I think Madgeborough is emerging as the main Mullins player in the Triumph. And I think that might be reflected in the market on the day. Not in jockey bookings, because it'll be Mark Walsh's ride, Paul Tannen might be on Salvatore Mundi, which might excite one or two people or whatever. But I think Madgeborough is going to win a huge race. And Ballystock in the county hurdle. At least you know late with if you best bets in the county hurdle, you right?
No, you've got time.
Exactly.
But Burdett Road out for the remainder of the season?
Yeah.
So that's obviously disappointing for Connections, but just some news to bear in mind. I always wanted to get something controversial from you, because you've started off through the show, you've done Cheltenham, Henderson.
That's got about 5. The Grand National Weights, the hullabaloo around the Grand National Weights. Do you think that's run its course in that we've now got a handicapper in Martin Greenwood
who just handicaps
the race? So you're there unveiling the curtains, and it's as expert. And all the trainers happy. You've got nobody pacing up and down, throwing bread rolls at him, as in the glory days of Phil Smith. But we go all in on the weights, and she get up the weights, and it's just.
What would happen to all the people in the press if there was no weights lunch though?
Well, they've removed the starter issue. I'm refusing to go until it gets reinstated.
I haven't been for years, but
it's amazing.
I'm never going to. No starter.
There's no main in the dessert. I mean, I made it very clear until the starter returned. But it's just that the Grand National Weights, you used to get so many lines, didn't you? People finding the only horses that he struggles with now are horses from cross-country background. That's the only one that there's any potential significant discrepancy. And it's interesting, the handicaps for Cheltenham, which say we're due out, they're thinking it's only £2 or £3, looking at what's happened with the national, what's happened elsewhere. That we're not seeing this £6, £7, £8, £9 difference. The sort of overseas tax, they used to call it, didn't they? I think things are settling down. I think that could be a factor in that.
Handicap mark discrepancy is one of the, if anybody's been betting for at any point in their life, I think handicap mark discrepancy between jurisdictions, etc. It's an absolute irritation in every respect. I mean, how can you probably? So I'm with you on that.
You've got the Stuart Crawford horse this weekend. I might run in the Moor Battle at one at Leopardstown, the mare, and she's £16 higher. Now you don't know how you have to go back and find out what's an Irish mark, and has there been
Yeah.
an overseas tax added onto that, or is that a £16 hike for winning at the DRF? And you shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to take it as granted. That
Indeed, I agree.
With this season, like Dave said, it does seem to be a shift because you have had Irish horses entered in the UK in handicaps in order to try and find out their mark, the likes of Lark in the Morning and various others. So it does seem to be closer to £2, £3, £4 as opposed to you used to look through them and go, wow, how is that £8 higher? So it is going to be interesting what we get.
I think it seems to be like in the morning because they've had a peak, like what they saw.
Yeah.
He's out.
Non-runner.
72 5 and continuing to be back.
Okay, well, I think on the note of no more starters at the Grand National Weights Lunch, no more really needs to be said at that juncture. But thank you very much for looking ahead to the racing that we've still got coming. Before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6. T's and C's apply. Now it's time for the best bet of the weekend, and as tradition warrants, the guest goes first. Dave, your best bet.
I'll be confident that I'm not stepping on any toes with this one, but it's an old favourite of mine, Tommy's Oscar, in the 2 Mile Handicap Chase at Doncaster. He's been put in as second favourite for a race. He dotted in at Kelso on his reappearance. He's had a couple of runs since, including at Kelso off the back of an 8-week break last time. He tired after the last day. Looked as if he needed it. That will have put him absolutely spot on. He's now only £2 higher than that Kelso reappearance win. He's got a really good record at Doncaster. He's 2 from 3 at the track. It really suits him, and he wants a strong pace. Such a strong traveller through his races. He wants him to go lickety-split up front, and there's plenty who are going to want to get on with it in this. It's an interesting race. It's a good race. I think the gallop's going to suit, the course is going to suit, the ground's going to be absolutely fine. He's handicapped, I think, to win it. So I'm going to go with Tommy's Oscar. Good old Tommy's Oscar to come good again in that 2 Mile Handicap Chase at Doncaster.
I was looking at Nube Negra in that race. He's second in the Queen Mother Champion Chase back in the day. To put the kettle on into a handicap, potentially, I mean, if he's declared for the race, I was interested in him, but now I'm going to pay due respect to Tommy's Oscar.
I did actually like Tommy's Oscar as well. That form of beating Boot Hill in that Grade 2 Lightning Novices Chase by sort of 5.5 lengths last year is really strong form. So yeah, you're not treading on any toes.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, your best bet of the weekend.
I think because all 3 of us have agreed on it, I think I'm going to have to put up Empire Steel in the Bet365 Premier Chase. Sandy Thompson is still in fantastic form, operating around a 30% strike rate. Won this race last year. He beat Lamilos by 3/4 of a length, albeit obviously it was only a 4-runner race last year, and this is a better race. That was off a mark of 141. He was a pound higher when winning over 2 mile 5.5 furlongs last time, beating Nell's Son by 4 lengths. Handicappers only raised him £3 for that victory, which I think is very fair. Yeah, that was his first run after a wind operation. So 7-2, Empire Steel in the Bet365 Premier Chase.
Massive tick from both of us for Empire Steel, no doubt. So just to recap, Dave's going for Tommy's Oscar. That's at Doncaster. And Steve, myself and Dave, are going for Empire Steel at Kelso. Those are the best bets of the weekend. Final thoughts? Dave, I'm assuming you're going to be all 4 days at the festival.
But you get to my age and you can't do all 4 days.
Wow.
It's too much of a toll. I'm there on the Thursday and Friday and thoroughly looking forward to it. And I genuinely am looking forward to Cheltenham this year. Sometimes you've got fatigue because it's all you talk about from October to November. But it's just the fact, I don't know, the season hasn't caught fire. And this is the opportunity. This is the 4 days when it should and it will. We've got the clashes we want to see, the right horses, touch glass, all on target to go there. Fingers crossed they all get their fit and firing, and we should see some epic showdowns.
I hope you're right, Steve. What's the next week got planned for you? Got anything interesting?
Lots of Cheltenham prep, ready for our live show.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. There's lots of winners coming our way. I've actually got to do a lucky 15 for another broadcaster who requires it. Narrowing down my Cheltenham thoughts now for a lucky 15, it's almost impossible. I've got to make it interesting as well, not just go for Dysart Enos 4 times.
Really? Even though Gordon's saying what he said about his man?
I expect them to say that.
Well, that's true.
I mean, the only difference is that they're saying that, and I'm pretty certain that Fergal O'Brien thinks probably the same thing. of Dysart Enos. I mean, Jay de Grugy, I'm sure they're thinking something similar.
Yeah. Good race.
Harry Durham likes Queen's Gamble. I mean, yeah, it's probably what I hate to say it because I'm not a fan of the mares races, but it's actually one of the most exciting races of the festival.
You wanted
really
it scrapping last year, didn't you? Didn't you try to ditch it?
This will be the last year. It can go after that.
Just imagine if they were in the half of them were in the Supreme and half of them were in the Bear and Bingham though.
Lost him out in the Champion. Rishi, sorry.
We've started him off now.
Oh, back to 3 days, please. Oh, actually, I should be careful saying things like that. I get in trouble myself. But yeah, ideally, that's what I would want. Anyway, that's it. We've dealt with quite a lot on the show, actually. Yeah. I'm actually quite amused by what we've talked about from the top. The negativity at the top to the negativity at the end. Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thank you to Steve and to Dave for joining me on the show this week. As always, if you've liked what you've heard or watched this or any of our previous episodes, then please leave us a kind review on the Apple Podcast. I stress that every week because even though we quite enjoy some of the engagement, one or two people are just unkind. Don't do it. Don't do it. Think about it. Think about it. And think if it was you receiving something negative. That's all I'm saying. That's my message for this week. The end. No. Our next show, of course, will be the live Cheltenham preview. So any of you who have been naughty, why don't you come along and say it to our face? No. Just come along and be nice and let's have a pie and a pint and disagree with each other about our selections for the Cheltenham Festival. That's our preview. That's the next time that we'll be back in action, the King George Pub in Chiswick on the 6th of March. Hopefully see some of you then. If not, thank you very much for joining us today. Bye-bye.